people who stumble into leadership, and they think that because they are, in your case, elected, right, or in some other case appointed, they feel it's just about the charisma, it's about the courage, it's about the eloquence, how that you're able to talk to people, and that just makes you a leader. I think that ideology is a lot faulty. Those are elements that can indicate that someone has leadership potentials. However, leadership begins when you consciously give yourself to learning about leadership, and you're able to also get yourself in the right position to be able to provide service to people. That said, I have a topic and I'll stay on that this evening. And I'm sure that you'll be able to journey with me through and through as we move on with the conversation. You kindly let me know if you can see my screen, so that we all can journey together. Kindly confirm if you can see my screen.
Yeah, I can see. I can see it, sir.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Thank you, sir. All right, so I have the topic communicating effectively as a leader as my focus for today. And I'll be running through this as fast as possible so that we can maximize the time that we had. Sorry, I'm flipping through the pages so that I can be sure I have control over this. Okay, great. So let's get the ball rolling, and I'll be using the chat room to fetch your feedback. So one of the things that we must also get comfortable with as leaders is to provide feedback when needed, right? So oblige me as you're writing. You should also be in the chat box to share thoughts whenever that I'll require them, because I'll do so just shortly. Uh, Again, the topic communicating effectively as leaders. I'm going to start with a question, unfortunately, for all of you. Sorry. Okay. So, Mr. Great, sorry again. Can you confirm that the slide had moved to the next page?
Not yet.
Okay. And something might be wrong somewhere. Forgive me. So, for some reasons, I couldn't convert the slide that I worked on to PPT formats because of the tool I used. So I have it on PDF, but I'm currently presenting on my system, but it's still showing us a document. Please give me just a minute to find a way to resolve this.
No problem, sir.
Okay, while I try to do that, for the participants in the on the platform, just share with me very quickly. Don't worry, I'll get this up shortly. But then I have an opening question, which I believe you can see right now. The question says, when you communicate as a leader, what do you want people to feel? Right? This is a question that I would need your feedback on. So you can send that as comments to the chat room. Let me get a view very quickly. All right. This is to everyone on the call right now. When you communicate as a leader, what do you want people to feel?
Hi guys, you can go ahead to put your response on the chat box um, here in this call. The question is, when you communicate as a leader, what exactly do you want people to feel? Respond to that question, put it on the chat box.
So your answer mustn't be it mustn't be um a Lagos Business School standard, right? It's just a very simple, direct question. So I see there are persons on the call, but probably you're just wondering what should your response be and all of the rest. So for instance, and nobody should use this example once I've used it, right? Um, what do I want? Um, sorry. What do I want? So if I use myself as an example now, what do I want people um, to feel? I want them to um, feel motivated, right? They feel inspired whenever that I speak to them, so that they can take decisive action. In fact, what I just said is quite long, but yeah, that's just like an example, as simple as that. So I see David typing something in. David said, I want them to feel like they are becoming better and they are being involved in the business of the day. Beautiful. Um, Royce, I intentionally skipped your first and last name so that I won't I won't do wrong to it. Royce is saying, when I communicate as a leader, I want people to feel like they are taking hearing from someone who can lead them in the right direction. Beautiful. Victor said, when I communicate as a leader, I always want people to have this feeling of clarity, direction. Amazing. Makes sense too. All right. Let me take one or two more. We have about um, roughly 11 leaders in the meeting. So I think I should be able to accommodate like two more. Who are the two persons who would get us out? At the end of this conversation, you would realize how much communication does to a leader. And that's because it's not just you wanting to learn how to be able to present. That's not what I'm coming to talk to you about today at all. I mean, those are necessary skill sets, but then it goes beyond that. Yeah, Franca is saying, I want them to feel understood and heard. Amazing. Which means I'm pretty much sure that there's a beautiful journey ahead of this particular cohort. Your responses sound very intentional and purposeful. And Joy is saying, when I communicate as a leader, I want everyone to feel and know their importance as a member of the team. I mean, I feel like if we hand Nigeria over to this particular set of leaders on this call right now, all of our issues will be fixed overnight. We have intentional leaders in the house, and that's really amazing. All right, thank you to everyone who has shared. I will just move on from here. All right, beautiful comments that you have shared. You all know exactly what you're looking out for from your audience whenever that you communicate to them, and that further reinforces the fact that there is a lot that you can get done if communication is properly taken care of, especially at this phase of leadership journey that you have. I'll try to be as practical as possible, especially because part of my leadership journey, aside from leading teams currently organization wise and in different institutions as the case may be, I also had some student leadership experience that I'm sure I will be able to plug in if necessary in the course of my conversation and this training this evening. All right, so just stay with me as much as possible and let's um, get the ball rolling. All right. Of course, now I'm looking at this real question which we have just addressed. You know how people feel beyond speaking to influence. And of course, if you check all of the responses that we gave, you notice that, yeah, of course, some persons are saying, I want to be heard. I'm not sure I saw anybody saying, I want to be very audible, right? Or I want them to know that I can speak well. I didn't hear things, or rather, I didn't read things like, I want them to say I was eloquent. It speaks a lot of how much that we know that communication is has an end in view way much more than any other thing that we could have captured, which means the real issue is not just in speaking, it's not your tonation, it's not your diction, it's not the language in which you're communicating with. At the end of the day, the real issue is actually influence, right? It means what is the resultant effect of what I have just communicated or what I have passed on to the people that I am addressing at that instance, and that changes the whole the whole vibe, the whole energy that I bring on board, right? Because the very first thing you will see, which is a misconception, is that many leaders can talk. As a matter of fact, is in the student unionism environment, what gets you elected, what gets you to this phase where you're at, is your ability to basically talk. I mean, the whole circle is, oh, you have an interest, or probably someone draws your attention to the fact that there's a role that they feel you can occupy. That if it wasn't directly inspired by you, and then you get to the point of, oh, I have interest in this, indeed, you get a form, fill the form, begin to do your campaigns, then probably at some point there is a manifesto presentation where get to talk about what you want to do, and then people will decide to either go for you or your opponent in the case where you're not a standalone contestant, right? And we all go to the polls, and the things that are foremost is either that you had so much courage while you're campaigning in terms of the things you said, the way you carried yourself, or rather it's that you had some kind of vision that were touch points for certain persons. I mean, this person said this, because of that, I'm going to vote for them. And thirdly, which is what we normally have in our political system, both at student level and also in the national political level, is the normal bias. I mean, you're my classmates, you're my tribesman, I just like you, or you had made a personal promise to me, and I think you will deliver on that. We always will have that. So the misconception is that many leaders can really talk. The issue is not that you can't communicate. You hardly see someone standing for a political office who stammers. So talking is not the issue. Talking is not what we are after, right? Because speaking is already a skill that all leaders would possess, most leaders would possess, not to generalize, but most leaders rather, already possess that. But it's not indeed the differentiator, and that leads us to what really sets leaders apart. Few leaders, as I captured here, few leaders can build trust, inspire action, persuade stakeholders, or communicate under pressure. Now, take note of the categorization that I had captured there because they're intentional. One of the things that you would expect a leader in your capacity or your environment to do is to be able to build trust. Listen, you're leading set of persons that have very quick emotional flips. I mean, I don't know how early your this thing is, or if you're in from different angles or places. I don't know what the setup is like, but let me just give the assumption that probably most of us are just coming into our offices or our capacities as leaders, right? If you have not journeyed so deep into the leadership system, you will not know what it means for people to overnight, I mean, literally, overnight, change their perspective about you and some of the leadership decision that you're going to make. So I had a friend back then, we were in the same department, and he had intentions to run for the president of our department while we we're in school then. So this young man was already initiating the campaigns and all of the rest, and was getting set. And for some reasons, there was a need. Was there really a need? Well, it seems there was a need. Um, I'm sure. Let me feel free to, speak politically as the case may be here too. So the whole divide and rule kind of principle that works in the political system, right? And at the point where he was preparing for, don't forget, department was where he was going for. All of a sudden, faculty elections were going to hold earlier than that, and there was this particular fellow who was the faculty president. And of course, normally when handovers would happen, because they've had lots of not so good journey, and they needed to cover tracks and all of the rest, they were looking for persons that they could just get a buy into to join their team and take over office, and everything just pretty much moves, seamless as the case is. Now his opponent, that's the person who was the faculty president, the person who was the faculty president wanted to hand over to this friend of mine, not necessarily because he had interest in the faculty presidency, but more so because there was someone in our department who was also running for that office. So you see the whole divide and rule thing. There are nine departments in the faculty. Two people coming from the same department simply means let's split this whole thing, across board, and make it uneven for anybody to gain it from that department. I'm talking about building trust now. And the instance that happened, the guy, my friend now, who initially was thinking, oh, departmental presidency is what I want. But for some reasons, I don't know, it was just one night they convinced him, oh, go get the form. We're going to support you. Oh, you can do this. I don't know how he got convinced. And he took the decision to run for the office. And he called me the next morning, and I've never heard him that distressed. He called and said he doesn't know what he has gotten himself into. This is what went on in the last 24 hours. This is what these people are trying to convince him to do. Literally tell that from that night till the morning when the news broke that he was now going to run for presidency of the faculty, the trust he had built amongst the people that were loyalists to him in the department and all of the rest, it upturned. Everything looked like it was just a waste of time. Why? What you are saying, how you are saying what you're saying, and the energy you're communicating in the room matters a great deal. And that can either let you achieve the ultimate vision that you have for the office you're serving in, you trust, just the way they communicate, they will be able to inspire action. You would have a lot of communication with stakeholders. Stakeholders would come in different shapes and sizes. A few that we can mention off our head. You have stakeholders as per your student leadership. I mean, probably student union, government, not student union now, say student affairs, right? At the management level, you have the school management as well. You have some other external sponsors and partners that might want to come do things with you, or that you want to come do things with you. You notice that you must have different tonation, different approach, different language that you're using to communicate to them. So you can't address students the same way that you would address the student affairs, or the way that you would go to a meeting with either the departmental president, departmental head rather in the department now, or the faculty head, or the vice chancellor, as the case may be. The same way that you would approach these persons who have designated authority in the school management system, it's not the same language, tone, and approach that you would give to persons who are partners or potential partners, right? That's because everybody's interests and needs are different at all of these levels, right? Um, the students would likely want some emotional warmth. They want some a bit of I stand with you. I understand your pain. I get what you're trying to say. I get what you're trying to do. I know what you want from the school. So we're going to fight and do this together, right? You're getting to management and your tone and approach to management. What management wants to see, because they all have needs, is a more of management will be looking for more of policy alignments, right? This is what the law says. Are the student going to keep by it? This is what we have written. Is it going to be kept by? We have to finish this semester by this period and move into exams. The students must be compliant. So when you are speaking with management, they want to be hearing things like, oh yeah, we're following through. Oh yes, we understand. Oh yes, we'll be compliant, and all of the rest. When you're speaking to partners and sponsors, those ones are looking for return on investment. So you can't go to them and you're telling them about the pains of the students. They don't care, because those will likely be business owners, those will likely be institutions and establishments. So to them, it's ROI. What's in it for me? If I come dig a borehole in your school, or if I come fix the electricity in your school, or if I come sponsor an event in your school, what do I get back in return? So your language, your tonation, and everything you're going to do in between begins to change. So you see that literally, you can talk all you can and not make any impact and not influence anything in one end as a leader. However, your tone changes or your approach changes when you begin to communicate to build trust, inspire action from the different quarters and stakeholders that you have, persuade those that are also having a lot of stake in that instance, and to communicate also under pressure. Let me just run from here. If not, I had one very beautiful example to give under this persuade under pressure. Probably if I get to hit something that relates to it. All right, so let me know if you're still following so far. I feel very much alone here. Let me know if I'm not alone and you're still with me. Just confirm, probably in the chat box, preferably. I'm with you, I'm with you, I'm with you. That will suffice. So I know I'm not alone. Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Rice. Thank you, Victor. Are these the only persons that are with me? All right, thank you. Go on. Thank you, Thomas. And Ogeneruba. Powerful. A typical Delta. Okay, great. So let's move on with some more force and vigor. All right, thank you everyone who has confirmed. Okay, so let's look at the fundamental truth here. And the question is why communication determines leadership success. You must have heard, and I'm going to get to that quote right now. How many of us have heard this one now? You might not type in, you can just give a thumbs up. How many of us have heard that everything rises and falls on leadership, right? You've heard that before. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Yeah, everything rises and falls on leadership. Um, Let me test our knowledge on leadership. Like I said, leadership is learned. So if you've been learning in the corners of leadership before now, you should have known who made that quote. Anyone can give me a response to that as well. If you know who had made that quote. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Is someone typing that? Can get. Okay, thank you, Victor. John C. Maxwell. Um, of that quotes, everything rises and falls on leadership. I'll get to that why I made that reference. Okay, but let's look at the fundamental truths and three things we're going to take home from this particular um, truth. The first thing that you must note is that poor communication kills ideas. Listen, it doesn't matter how beautifully curated your vision for the role you're occupying right now is, or your department or your faculty. It doesn't matter. Nobody really even cares at all how beautiful your ideas are. If they are not communicated properly, it will die with you. It definitely will not scale. It definitely would not achieve the aim and purpose that it was set out for. I can list out numerous persons who had gotten into leadership capacity with beautiful ideas. I mean, the first question is, what really motivated you to want to opt in for leadership? I asked myself that question because for me to have served at my faculty leadership level, the faculty senate, I was a two-term member. At the first term, I was a member. The second term, I had come in as the chief clerk of the house, and I had opportunity to also run for some other offices. At the time, I also was on the campaign team for quite a number of persons, for faculty president and student union government president. And I told myself a basic question. I called a friend closely and I asked him, because at that moment I had seen, um, you know, I remember know the black and white copy of of pictures, how pictures were produced before now. When you just snap and then you have the film with you and you can view the black and white copy before you go print, right? I had seen the very, very skeletal structure of how the student union government system works. And I know that except you embezzle, you cannot make profit out of that kind of system. It's not possible, except if you embezzle. And I say this categorically as an authority on it. Except you embezzle, you cannot make profit out of the system, which means that you're coming into this office system or that office capacity, and the first thing that is in your mind is how to serve. You have a vision that you want to communicate or that you want to achieve, right? Without really, really having returns on whatever thing that you. And when I mean returns now, I mean not monetary returns. Why? Because returns also can be, like we had mentioned while we're listing out things that we want to have, what we would want our listeners to take home when we communicate with them, right? Transform life, communicating value and all of the rest. I'm saying this because if you don't take this first point serious, you would see that you have ended either a 6-month tenure, or 8-month tenure, or a 1-year tenure without really achieving anything tangible. And because some of you would even go the extra mile of sacrificing as much as your academic journey. I've seen law students who took 1 year off law school, not law school now, their study in the university because they wanted to take up a student's unionism office, right? I've seen a medical student halt 1 year just because he was serving as a. So leaders bring so much to the table in terms of sacrifice at this level of leadership, and all for them to not be able to communicate their visions properly. And poor communication costs the entire thing that they have sacrificed 1 year for. First off is resource to be able to even get into the office. I see the amount people put for forms to buy for students, and I'm like, are you guys keeping me right now? And I see the efforts right now. We see people doing posters here and there. We see people printing materials to share with students. We see people doing campaign full-fledged banners, and doing quite a lot, sponsoring tutorials just to get into office. all for you to now get into office and everything is dashed because you couldn't manage communication well. This is the how costly it is for you, and you must take it as that. The second thing that is effective communication mobilizes. So yeah, while not communicating well can kill the entire idea, if you're able to communicate well, it can contribute to the mobilization that you have always looked out for. So an average idea communicated effectively mobilize people and create change. So you wonder why that sometimes some Nigerians follow, to you, you feel that they follow some of the leaders we have or the politicians we have blindly. No, is that sometimes when these people talk, they've mastered communication so much well that they know the touch points that they would mention in a 5-minute speech, and you see people trooping after them. It's communication. Sometimes it's not about the items that they share, to be honest. It's just about how they speak. If I had time, I would have asked you which Nigerian politician gets your attention every now and then. For me, without thinking twice, is Bukola Saraki. I mean, if you know that man well, you know that he's a master of communication. He says it as it ought to be. You can feel the intelligence in what he's communicating and how that is presenting his thought line. It's easy for him to convince anyone that is thinking right that, oh, this is someone worth following. Do you understand? If you communicate effectively, mobilization is not an issue. So you see some big audacious goals that you want to achieve, and you're wondering, oh, how am I going to get people to buy into this? Communication is what your is the dividing line between where you are right now and where you intend to get to your leadership journey. The third is the ultimate determinant, right? Which means that leadership rises or falls on communication. Now, remember that quote that I had referenced. Everything rises and falls on leadership. But guess what rises and falls on communication? Leadership. So if everything will be rising and falling on leadership, there's something that leadership is dependent on. That's communication. So it no longer is a thing of leisure if leaders should be able to communicate or not. It's now compulsory because your leadership success is hinged on how well you're able to communicate. Now, what are the few things we're going to quickly build? Now, I have to run because I've laid a good foundation for us to build on. So permit me when I just get to scale on a couple of things, that we've been talking about all the while. What this session would build. Number one is for you to know your leadership voice. Number two is to structure and deliver a compelling speech. Number three is to persuade with credibility and emotion. Number four is to communicate across power levels. And number five is to handle difficult conversations. Did you capture that? Would you let me know if you got that? Know your leadership voice. Structure and deliver a compelling speech. Persuade with credibility and emotion. Communicate across power level and handle a difficult conversation. I'm not getting any feedback. Are we good? Hello, leaders. Just okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So let's move on quickly. Now, the problem with copying, I had to capture this because whenever that we talk about communication and how to get people's attention, just like I mentioned in the previous comment that I made about someone that I respect so much in Nigeria's political system, you'd also would likely know someone or have someone in your circle that you also are hinging on. Your imitation is what we always are looking out for. We want to copy. When leaders communicate like someone else, what happens? they lose their authenticity and connection with the audience. Yeah, because you are not bringing your real self to the table. You're not bringing your ideal self to the table. So, what are the common pitfalls that we see here? The first thing here is imitation. Many student leaders communicate like someone else. It's either that you've encountered a student leader that was there before you, or you have one mentor that you have always looked up to, and you've mastered the art of their communication, and you just want to say things the way they say them. You want to do your hand gestures the way they do them. You want to walk the way they walk. You carry yourself the way they carry themselves. And to you, that's just like, I mean, that's what it is. As long as this person does it well, I should be able to do it well. You would likely not get the desired results. The second is role playing. You imitate politicians, pastors, influencers just because you want to get the message across. The third is emotional toll, right? It is exhausting and your audience can feel it. You are just caught in that drama of the moment, trying to get something passed across. It's you trying to copy, then losing authenticity. Audience can sense when a leader is not being genuine. And trust me, the kind of audience that you're leading in a Generation Z world always appreciate authenticity. That's one of the core things about this generation. They see when people are real and when they are not, and their followership is never and can never be bought. I mean, you see, if you are loved, you are loved. If you are not loved, they make it clear and known to you. So your real and authentic self is the most underused leadership asset. Your authenticity is the most underused leadership asset. So I'm already bringing to you one of the core things that you must hold dear in your hands as you continue your journey in leadership, which is authenticity. Make sure you are not copying. Make sure that you're not imitating. No role playing, no emotional toll, no losing authenticity. Stay with your true self as you begin to journey in the path of leadership, especially in communication. What are these three questions that should build a very solid framework for us? Because your leadership voice is going to be structured around this. One, what do I stand for? What's your conviction? Now, this is where I want you to begin to detail whatever that you have on probably your journal or whatever that you're using to document this. You must be able to answer these questions. What do I stand for? This is where a lot of your values are going to come in. Your conviction. We're not talking about if you are the president or the financial secretary, or you are the secretary, or you're the social director. Not your title, not your office. It's your conviction. What are the things that are core to you? What are the things that are they are not things that you can change your stand on. It's solid, it's clear, it's consistent. The second question: why should people trust you? And now this talks about credibility, your track record, your experience, and all of the rest. Why should people trust you? Now, I'm already giving you this framework because even when you begin to communicate to people, this form the context and content of your speech, right? So you want to speak to, remember I had already talked about tone earlier on. I'm hoping, I'm already suspecting I might not be able to exhaust all of my slides, but let's see how far we'll go before the time is up. But I'm trying to put all the thoughts together so that wherever I stop, you can have a very solid take home. I talked about the different levels that your communication will be required, right? From student level to school management to stakeholders, I mean, partners and sponsors that you might be engaging at a different level. When you have to stand before these people, speaking to them in different tones, the three things that most consistently stand through all of your communication with them is your conviction. What are your convictions? What do you stand for? So you're speaking to Students, for instance, I really wish we also had time. I would have, even though your feedback loop is not so encouraging for me, I must say, for leaders. I would have wanted us to do a little bit of practicals where whatever that we're learning, we can just take a minute or two to get feedback from people who would want to just do a test run. So let's say you want to speak to which of the three levels should I choose? Let me say student. You want students and you're taking this framework to approach it. Starting with your conviction, right? So I stand before students and I address them in whatever format that you would normally use in your institution. Of the greatest students, great. Of the greatest student, greatest boo boo, bad, greatest bad, bad. You know, all of those kind of gyrations. You do that and you move on to your speech directly. Great student of Delsu. I want to thank all of you for your support. I want to thank you for standing by myself and my team all through the hurdles or to the hard times that we've had. We've come to a point where a lot of things are now put to check, but you know exactly why we started this journey in the first place. Your conviction, you're already addressing that now. You're getting to your conviction. You know already how we started this journey. It was not because we wanted this for popularity. It was not because we wanted this for to make a name for ourselves. It's not because we wanted this for profit. We started this journey because we believe that the system can get better. We believe that things can be way much structured. We believe that we could get our leadership more accountable and we could provide solution at the level where we're at. This is me presenting a speech to your fellow students. I've defined my conviction and they can hear me, so they know I'm not just blabbing as the case is. We're moving to credibility. So you're talking about your track record and your experience. Remember, you're still talking to students. You get to track record and you begin to address them. And the next thing you're going to is, I'm sure a lot of you were around when we had to do a solidarity march to the dean's office. Addressing the facility issue that we've been experiencing in multiple halls. Most of our halls are not as equipped as they should. And we've seen some of the actions that we've taken in the last couple of months. We are not there yet, but we've made some progress. A lot of you too will remember how that we had a messed up timetable in a couple of departments, clashes of lectures here and there. We've been in talks with the department heads, we've been in talks with the administrative heads, and there's been a lot of restructuring to that in recent times, and it has brought us this far. This has been done because of our collective effort and our support in making things happen. Did you get exactly how the flow is? Are you guys here with me? I'm still alone. I'm feeling like an SUG president right now. Right? Awesome. Thank you. And then we move to the third framework, which is talking about direction. So you don't gather people to just begin to talk about what we have on the table right now. Of the greatest student, of the greatest student. We are all together. So we need to do no. Always build a journey and let it lead you to where you're heading to. And then when you're getting there too, you now begin to talk about um, uh, what you now want to do. All right. So probably the prevalent issue now might just be one particular hostel that is out of water, or one particular issue that the student probably possible strike that wants to happen, and you want to address that. But you see, you would not believe um, um, how much stirring that you have built in the heart of the people from the first two levels, such that when you're telling them we now need to do this together, trust me, you see people who would not mind abandoning sort important things in quotes that they wanted to do just to follow you because of the build up that you've done. So the same thing. Let me use another example very quickly, and that might be with let's say, let me leave management for now and talk about. So you want to have an event and you want to invite some partners and sponsors to join in, right? So if there's a vice president on the call, let's say the vice president wanted to do something unique for ladies, and she's going to pitch to MTN in Delta. Or well, since you're in Delta, let me pick one of these oil companies. What's the name? Shell. I think Shell has moved, but I'll just use Shell for an example. So she goes to meet director of programs at Shell to speak, and then, of course, there's a letter, but beyond your letter, anybody can write a letter. Anybody could write a letter for you, but you want to now pitch. You're pitching, and then you start. Oh, my name is this and this and this. Over the couple of months since we assumed office, there's been a lot of concern that we've had amongst the females in our departments. We've seen some level of discrimination, and uh, let's say discrimination. I'm checking the word if it's the right word to use. Let's use, yeah, discrimination, we're borrowing it, or segregation as the case is. There's not been a lot of inclusion, and that was what motivated me to run for the office of vice president. Today I can guarantee you that out of 12 escorts, about 4 of us are ladies, and we've been trying our best in our different capacity to not just represent the female gender in our leadership team, but to also bring some level of inclusiveness. Some committees have been created in the faculty, and we've had females head some of these departments. We've had them also do a lot of things here and there, and we are currently now. I've done conviction, right, and I'm moving to what's it called, credibility. In fact, I think I've touched credibility as well, because I've talked about the things that we've done over time, and that's leading me to now present my case to them at the instance to say, this and this, I mean, what we stand for, inclusiveness, and what we have done, making sure that other ladies are carried along as the case is leading us to now um, organize this program, Women in Leadership, and we're looking at hosting about 1,000 ladies on campus to these events. We can't do this alone. We need a lot of support. We need a lot of backing to be able to equip them. Some of the things that will take a lot of our resource, facilitators, resource materials, lots of workshop that would equip ladies and all of the rest. And we believe that you come in strongly. So this has already established that we're not just saying come and do the thing for us. We're saying that this is something we've been doing, but we need your hands to journey with us hand in hand. So this goes beyond being able to talk, but being able to communicate value as the case is. Let me know if these examples were helpful as I wrap up my talk tonight. I'm seeing a comment. Let me see if I can. One way to communicating better is by building from basic instead of just. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Not just from basic. It looks basic, but they are the fundamentals. They are the building blocks, right? You must be able to journey people from where you are coming from to where you're at, and then where you're heading to. Don't forget, anybody you're communicating with, you must show track record. In fact, I don't have the time. I will have talked about management because that's the most technical. Those ones don't just want, they just believe you're a group of young people that want to waste your time. I'm serious. A lot of schools do not have any out of respect or regard for student leaders, and you must, at every opportunity, you have to communicate to them to show them track records. So you're not just going to them to sign checks and approvals and all of the rest. You must be able to tell the things you've done on your own without their efforts, and achieved, how it has helped the school, because they are, and how you have stayed compliant with some of their policies, with some of their rules. You, as you are presenting your case, you say, remember, things were like this, but now it's like this. Remember, students have stayed true, and remember, we've recorded 90% of school fees being paid without being forced to. Remember, do you understand? And all of the rest. So that helps to keep them in check as you are now presenting your case. It will now not make sense when they don't pay attention to what you're saying. Thank you, Victor, for pulling that attention to that. Okay, so now I move on to the next. You need to now follow me with this. So type in the chat, I want to be but as a leader who dash. What we are doing here is voice equation. You are discovering your leadership identity. Okay, you need to be specific because I wonder what I was thinking of when I wrote this. Vague communicators create vague followers, and that's absolutely the truth. Vague communicators create vague followers. If you are to create a chart, I mean a chart now, chart, that will detail the things that you want to do in details. I know you can speak on the spot as leaders, but sometimes you need to be thoroughly detailed, thoroughly specific, and that's where vague communication is being discouraged. You must be able to say the things as they are in as much detail as possible. All right. I wrote here too, your leadership voice is the bridge between your conviction and your audience. Clarity in self-perception leads to clarity in communication. So do I have anybody typing that in already? I want to be remembered as a leader who dash. Share with us, share with us, share with us, share with us. I want to see leaders who are proactive here. Thank you, Victor. I want to be remembered as a leader who is innovative and solution driven. Beautiful point. So, because of my time, I will not wait for the other persons, but I'll just continue. Thank you, Victor, for sharing. All right. But my point here is vague communication will always create vague followers. When people cannot see the destination clearly, and if it's not communicated to them clearly, they do not see a reason to follow. You'll notice that at the instance where they see someone else with something clear, you begin to lose followership. I want to that is to be remembered as leading by example. That's very beautiful, David. Thank you also for sharing. So as I wrap up, um, I wanted to address something on fear because fear is always one of the anchors of poor communication. Understanding the fear in leadership communication. Let's look at these four things and I'll rush through them. Universal experience. Every skilled communicator has felt it. We are establishing truth here. So that you were fidgeting before you went up stage, or before you stood before the dean of a faculty, or before you appeared before a major partner that wanted to sign a contract with you. It's normal. It's a universal experience. You fidget. In fact, before I started this session, because I had quite a very engaging day and I just settled in less than an hour before the session started, I had to take like 5 to 10 minutes to just check my slides again. Okay, what are the things I need to share with these fellows? I speak week in, week out, but I sometimes you just get that little. I'm sure Mr. Great will be able to relate as well. You just get that. Okay, how do I? Well, it's normal. So don't think that you are the only one on the lane of being afraid or being uncertain about what you want to share. The second is redefining confidence. Confidence is not the absence of fear. Confidence is acting despite it, right? So you know that one, fear is universal. So yeah, sometimes I would have it. But two, I am also confident regardless of the circumstance around or the person that I'm going to be facing. And trust me, I don't know whatever leadership ladder that you're at right now, there are rooms that you're going to enter into that will be intimidating. There are lecturers that would intimidate you. I don't know about the school you're in right now, but I know of lecturers that will even get to changing your academic records when you want to stand for certain truths. I've seen comrades across board entering departments to distort their opponent's record because of the politicking that is happening in the student environment. That is wrong, but of course, those are the things that you would likely encounter. But when these things come, you make sure that your conviction is unshaken. Common fears: fear of judgment, fear of forgetting, fear of embarrassment. You must know that these things would happen and you must get ready to stand your ground on them. Then action over anxiety. You have to name them, then step forward anyway, right? Make sure that your action is already detailed out. One step after the other, you're taking it regardless of the anxiety that you feel. Do you feel like your voice would quake when you get upstage? Yes, but regardless, go start, say something, begin the conversation. And like the framework that I've given you, it pretty much just gives you an idea of how to start and how to pick things up. All right. So let's take the leadership speech formula that I'm going to recommend for you the next time that you also want to speak. First thing is opening. Capture attention in the first 20 seconds. If not, you will lose the attention of your audience. Facts, especially because you are leading young persons. If you're in a room with adults, they might give you a benefit of doubt. First 3, 5 minutes, trying to get to see if probably you missed your way the first time and you're trying to redirect your step or something. But when you're talking to young persons, your opening is everything. First 20 seconds, make sure that it's captivating, it's energetic, it drives the room, and the energy is everywhere up there. Probably that is why most student leaders will always start with mantras, of the greatest this, of the greatest that, great Nigerian students, because that just stirs the energy in the room. And you must not drop the ball. You must move on to exactly what we had captured earlier on. So under the second point here, you state what the problem is. Stating the problem here. Also, this is where you plug in the framework we had talked about. Where you are building a context to exactly what your conviction is, and then the other 2 points that were mentioned. Then you move on to solution. One clear direction, not a list of ideas, and call to action. What must we do from this point? And everybody begins to take up action from that particular point that you're at. You need to structure your message and lead with clarity at all times. All right. There are 4 delivery levers that I've also stated here. First is the pace. All right. Make sure that you slow down. A pause is emphasis, not dead air. Sometimes everybody just wants to reel out everything that they have to say, but sometimes you need to take a pause so that whatever that you have said would sink in as convincingly as possible. Second is posture, right? There are people who you would see stand before you with shoulders high, very bold, very courageous, and you're like, oh my God, how did this person get to build themselves to this point? It's posture. Even when you're on camera, how you sit communicates confidence. How you speak communicates assurance of what you have to communicate. You can't be weak-livered while communicating in front of the different stakeholders and at the different power levels that you'll be communicating. It must stand out. It must. I remember a year after I had left school, and a friend of mine who had become faculty president of my faculty called me back to say, um, he raised up a monument in the school and had invited school authority. Of course, he got approval to raise that. It had the school anthem and some, I think, the school logo on it and something like that. And he had invited me over to say, I love the way you communicate, and I'd like you to anchor the event. The event had the current vice chancellor present at it, and it also had the immediate past vice chancellor also. So I was talking to like 2 vice chancellors and faculty, dean of faculties were present there. And man, I knew that I was in charge of the room that it was clear, it was consistent. You must be able to hold the room ransom whenever that you are communicating with people. And at the end of it, of course, I had a brief conversation with the dean of faculty, and she was like, this young man, who are you? Where have you been? And I'm like, well, I was your student at some point, but probably this is the first time we're having an opportunity to speak together. I'm just saying that your posture communicates way convincingly than even the things that you might be able to say. Eye contact matters. Dear leaders, Never be looking up and down while you're speaking to people. Eye contact. Consciously look into the eyes of people. Now, let me teach you a trick if you are someone that is fearful when it comes to communicating with people in the room. Now, the moment you stand up stage, make sure that you map out three major angles. Depending on how the hall is, it might be four, it might be three, as the case is. Now, in these three major angles, one is straight ahead of you. How to make sure that you keep communication is to look out for one person at least, that you will look straight into their eyes or their forehead, as the case may be, and that's like your focus right in the middle. Then the other two can be at the two edges. Every time that you're talking, you're moving around from right to left to center, right to left to center, and your eyes always goes to that one person, as the case is. I'm saying if your case is that eye contact is a very difficult thing, at least instead of looking at 500 people or talking to 500 people, you are assuming that these are the three persons that you are addressing. In doing that, it cuts off every other form of distraction in quotes that you might have in the room. And your opening line also is the fourth thing that we had talked about even in the last. I'm trying to just, I think I should just rest my case here. I know my time is entirely up, and I just wish you all the very best. I hope the few things I've shared so far are able to drive immeasurable change. If I have any assignment for you, it will be to pick one of the that you want to address and do a recording how you're going to approach them and share your thoughts with them. And I'm sure that pretty much will also help to drive your vision home, as the case is. Mr. Great, I would arrest my case here. I still have a few things, but my time is outrightly out, and I think I've exceeded already. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me. And
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Abel. This is premium content delivered in about an hour plus. Thank you so much. This is insightful. I don't know. I don't think I heard the assignment. Just so that why I love assignment a lot is you are able to put all of the things that you have learned into practice, and then you can get feedback and review, right? So I don't know if you can come again with the assignment. Victor, help us put it on the chat box so that people can take home the task that is to be done, so that you can, let's even be sure that the time that was spent here, sharing insight on communicating effectively, gets to the right mental framework. Thank you so much, Mr. Abel. Thank you for sharing your time. Thank you for sharing the insights. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. You're very much welcome. Thank you so much for having me here. So about the assignment, I have that currently on the screen. It's an activity that I think you should be able to take up, right? This is a scenario, you can choose any scenario, but if you check my screen right now, you'll see one scenario that is there. Your union wants a dedicated welfare support space. That is the case in point, right? Your assignment now says, how do you open this with fellow students? How do you communicate this to your fellow students to get their buy-in? The second says, how do you open it with the dean's office? How do you communicate it to the faculty of the dean? Then you have a third category, which is an external NGO's partner. How do you open it with an external NGO partner? If you followed the session pretty much well, this should be an easy thing for you to be able to navigate through. I would have preferred if you can record a video so that I can hear you speak, and also how that you open the statements, how you state your problem, all of the things that we had talked about in the course of the training. You are applying it to, so yeah, instead of typing, because you can literally in the AI age right now, you can feed it with anything and get an output. But yeah, I would prefer if you can record. Yeah, let me see your reaction. Stand confidently in front of a camera and record 2 minutes or 3 maximum, and upload to Drive. I think my email is already attached to the meeting schedule, and you could send that in, or probably if there's a method how assignments are submitted, I'll be okay with following through with that. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. That's clear enough. The assignment is clear enough. So we are going to get. I'll ensure that gets to you. We'll put that to the folder and it's sent to you. Finally, thank you everyone for joining the class. We're 15 minutes beyond our time, but it's worth it, right? This is your investment in improving yourself as a leader, and communication is one of such. Thank you so much. Please go over the notes again. Go over the assignment. I'll share the deadline for the submission of the assignments on our WhatsApp community. But till then, please, let's have a wonderful evening. Can we just give a final round of applause, digital round of applause, to our facilitator, Mr. Abel, for the time and the insight shared. Thank you so much again, Mr. Abel. I really appreciate it. And that's where we'll draw the curtain for week 2 class. I'll see you guys again first on WhatsApp, and then on Saturday, our next class is on negotiation and conflict management. Good night, everyone. God bless.